Lesson 12.2, Task 3. So we're still comparing exponential functions. All right, so now it says compare initial values. The initial value of an exponential function in the form f of x equals ab to the x is a because f of 0 equals a times b to the 0 equals a times 1, which equals a. And the reason this goes to a times 1, remember b to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1. This can often be determined by looking at the table of values or reading the value from the graph. However, this is not always possible. The value v of a computer depreciates exponentially over time t in months. Three brands sell comparable computer models as shown in the equation, the table, and the graph. Determine the initial value of the computer from each brand and order them from least to greatest. All right, brand 1 gives you the equation, and we can easily plug in 0 here, and anything to the 0 power is 1. So we can easily see from this one that the initial value is 485. Okay, now this one starts at second month. Month 2 and month 3 is all is given in the table. So it doesn't give us our initial value. So we will have to find that one. And the graph doesn't say what the initial value is, but you can read that from the graph, and you can see that 0, 400 looks like 400 is the initial value of the graph. All right, so it says brand 1, so let 0 substitute in for t, so v of 0 equals 485 times 0.9 to the 0 power. Again, anything to the 0 power is 1. 1 times 485 is 485. So for brand 1, the initial value of the computer is 485. So that's the easiest to see because that's your a value. You can see that given in the equation. All right, so why is a the initial value in the equation? It is the value of the function when t is 0. It's the value of the function when t is 1. All right, so time 0, when the exponent is 0, then that's your initial value. All right, brand 2. All right, v of t equals a times b to the t power. All right, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work on this one. All right, so it says complete the statements regarding the value of b for brand 2. So brand 2 is the table, and they're giving us 2 and 414 and 3 and 401. So it's exponential decay, so that means b is between 0 and 1, because the value of the computer is modeled by an exponential decay function. And you can see that as this gets bigger, this number gets smaller, so we know that this is exponential decay for that reason. All right, so it says use our 2 points. So it's saying v of 3 equals ab to the third power equals 401. So this was our x and our y from our second point, which was the 3 and the 401. So again, you can see the 3 and the 401 come from here, and then 214 is another point given. So they're going to take the second point, 2 and 414, and plug that in as well. Okay, so they're going to use those 2 points to put these together. All right, so it says b equals, so we've got ab to the third divided by ab to the second. Okay, so anything divided by itself cancels. So you've got b3 over b2. b3 is 401, b2 is 414. If you divide those, you get 0.97. So that's our growth rate. B is the growth rate, and you can see using properties of exponents why that works. So our growth rate for the second function is 0.97. So this says All right, so again, the a's cancel, so that becomes b cubed over b squared. And b cubed over a squared, properties of exponents, you subtract from top to bottom, that becomes b to the first. All right, so substituting that into your equation and using the first ordered pair that it gives you, which is the 2 and 414. So we have a times our growth rate, which we just found to be 0.97, raised to the second power equals 414. And that's the 2 months equals 414. That comes from the table. So given this information, now we can solve for a. Okay, so go ahead and square 0.97. If you square 0.97, so 0.97 squared equals 0.94. Let me see if I can pull up my pen here. All right, so I'm going to show you how this works exactly. All right, so let's see. If we have a times 0.97 squared equals 414. All we're doing is solving an equation here. Anytime you have an equation, sorry that looks funny, it's just supposed to be a 414. All right, so you can square this number here. So I'm going to have a times 0.97 squared is 0.9409, and that equals 414. And remember, when we solve an equation, we're solving for a. This is multiplication, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to do the inverse operation and divide both sides by this number here, and that leaves a equals, and we can do 414 divided by 0.9409. And that gives us an A value of about $440. All right. All right, so it says, what does each of the values represent? So the 0.97 represents the interest rate that we found above, and the 2 represents the 2 months that it equals $414. The 2 and the 414 came from the table, and the interest rate we found by dividing the 2 equations. All right, so A is about $440. All right, so the initial value of the computer for brand 3 was $400. All right, so where does the initial value for brand 3 appear on the graph? So brand 3 again was the graph, and you can see that that is your y-intercept there. So 400 is your y-intercept, not your x, but your y-intercept. And then that shows you have the 3 different initial values. So let's go back and look at brand 2. We found brand 2 to be 440. All right, so brand 1 is 485. Brand 2 we found to be 440. And this one is 400. So it said order from least to greatest. So brand 3 would be the least, then brand 2, then brand 1. So it would be 3, then 2, then 1. All right, and pretty sure that's what they have down here as well. All right, the initial value of the computer from brand 3 is the least. brand 2 is the second, and brand 1 is the greatest. So those are in order 3, 2, 1. All right, that's all for task 3 on finding initial values. If you have any questions, please let me know.